weak chin, buck teeth, and wow!
Hi, Dad.
Hey, I'm Dave Klein here with Mike Rougeau, who is lucky enough to go to the Disenchantment Roundtable, and I am so jealous. So what were some of the highlights of what you learned at the Roundtable?
Well, first of all, it's kind of cool just getting to meet Matt Groening, creator of The Simpsons, creator of Futurama. He's become kind of a controversial figure recently, but it's still, just as a person who grew up watching The Simpsons, it's still really cool just to get to meet him. Despite everything, so that was neat. And then just to learn a little bit more about Disenchantment. Obviously, Netflix announced this show recently, and it's like where Futurama was a very sci-fi show. This is obviously a fantasy show starring a princess, Princess Bean. Eric Andre is one of the voice actors. Abby Jacobson from Broad City, which I love, is voicing Princess Bean. So there's a lot of talent involved, and it was just cool kind of to get to learn some more about the show.
Did you get any info on if it would be more similar to Simpsons or Futurama or something completely different? Do you have any idea?
One of the things that's interesting about this show, I think, is that obviously it's on Netflix, and Netflix has become kind of famous lately, for better or worse, for letting people kind of do whatever they want. Like they don't put limits on creators, and sometimes that can result in really cool things, and sometimes that can result in things that are awful. But one of the things that Matt Groening and then the other person in the interview was Josh Weinstein, who's his frequent collaborator, worked on The Simpsons, worked on Futurama. The two of them are working on this together. One of the things they talked about is they get to vary the episode length. So some of these episodes are, like the pilot is 35 minutes long apparently, but then other episodes are like 27 minutes long. They talked about how there's like violence and there's nudity. Like it's very much like an animated show for adults.
Okay.
In the same way that The Simpsons and Futurama always were, but without the limitations of being on a network.
So what else, like, highlights did you learn from them? Did they actually dispense out info about the show, or what we would be seeing the first couple episodes?
Yeah, well, they said Monty Python's like Holy Grail is a big influence on a lot of. They said like it was kind of a cop out. They're like, well, it's an influence on almost all modern comedy, but like obviously it's an influence on Disenchantment,
well, especially
specifically.
Holy Grail when it's a medieval style
exactly.
show.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of, if you're a fan of that, there's going to be a lot in this. One thing that was really interesting is they talked about how even though they have all of this freedom now to have violence and nudity and more adult-oriented content, they never want it to be gratuitous. They always want it to be, like, I think they said, let me remember the exact quote, but they said, like, Matt Groening said, like, if there's going to be violence, it's got to be creative, so it doesn't feel gratuitous. He said if there's going to be nudity, it's going to be King Zog. It's going to be like the king, it's going to be somebody you don't want to see naked.
Yeah, I mean, that's classic comedy. That's
right.
how you have to do it,
Right, and also very Monty Python.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Are there any secrets that they dispensed to you?
There was one interesting thing.
Okay.
Matt Groening had this, he did multiple interviews and we could kind of hear him when he was talking to the other groups, so he came over to us and he reiterated, I think he's like, loves dishing this one out.
Yeah.
Apparently the first shot, he said the first animation you see, so I don't know if that means opening credits or the first scene, but he said the very first animation you see in the show has like some big secret in it that no one's gonna notice, he said, but it's staring you right in the face and it'll make sense later. So there's some kind of Easter egg like in the very first shot of the entire show.
I wonder if it's one of those things where you have to finish watching the season and you're like, oh, that was there.
Yeah, where it's like totally innocuous.
It's like a golden goose egg or something that's there. Yeah.
But it makes me think that there's gonna be like some kind of big twist or something in season 1, and they compared the show to Rick and Morty, actually, which was interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, we're both big fans.
Yeah.
But they said like there are contained stories in Rick and Morty, and they wrap things up at the end of every episode. And there are some episodes of Disenchantment. I keep screwing that up.
Disenchantment is the Disney movie.
Right. Not the same. There are some episodes of Disenchantment that are more freestanding, more standalone, but that there also is like an overarching plot that will continue throughout the whole.
It's funny because they compare that to Rick and Morty, because Futurama kind of does the same thing. Mm-hmm. He could have compared it to his own old previous show. He's Rick and Morty.
It was Josh Weinstein was making the Rick and Morty comparison. I got the sense he might have just been a Rick and Morty fan and wanted to bring it up.
Or maybe because Rick and Morty's so popular now, it's like, don't worry, kids, it's like Rick and Morty.
It's just like Rick and Morty.
Yeah, it's the same thing, just in the past. So in the fantasy genre, there's tons and tons of tropes, like, dwarves, elves, what have you, all those mythical beasts, creatures, weapons. Are they going to be embracing that, or are they going to be trying to do something different? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, one of the most interesting things they said, actually, Josh Weinstein actually said, part of the way that they're writing it is they're writing the storyline first, as sort of imagining it as a dramatic storyline, and then trying to subvert it and make it funny afterward. And one of the things they do is they're trying to take the tropes of fantasy and subvert them like multiple levels. So like if you think about fantasy, they mention like Disney princesses, right? That's a big trope of fantasy, and helpless princesses and damsels. But they also said the modern version of that trope is princesses who are like badass warriors who are perfect, right?
Yeah.
And so their version of it, their subversion of the subversion is Princess Bean, who is, they wanted her to be a more realistic, I think they said she's 19 or 20 years old.
Yeah.
Where she is a badass, but she's not perfect. She has a ton of flaws. She makes bad decisions, but you'll like her anyway.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, she drinks, or it's implied that she drinks because she's always showing beer in the promo art or something. So
yeah, she's gonna be a drunk. She's gonna be female Homer Simpson.
So yeah, all right.
Maybe.
And slightly better shape.
Yeah. They mentioned the elves. There's a character Elfo.
Yeah.
In the show, and he comes from a land of like where all the elves are just singing all the time and they're happy, and they were like, that would drive you insane and you would just want to escape. And so that's where Elfo comes from. Like the typical fantasy elves are like jolly and singing, and he hates them and he like wants to get away, and that's how he winds up kind of intersecting with Princess Bean.
What did they say about the other side character? Because there's two side characters. Yeah, there's also the demonish, the black figure.
Yeah, there's like the little black demon
like Lucy,
guy,
right? Like Lucifer, I think.
Yeah, Lucy. It must be short for Lucifer.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't really say that much about him, but that's the character that Eric Andre is voicing. So I'm expecting good things.
Actually, speaking of voiceovers, John DiMaggio is returning. Was there anything from him?
Oh yeah, oh my God, I have
Maggio?
Whatever. I have to tell this story because partway through this interview, the door opens and we hear this gruff voice coming from the doorway, and we look over and it's John DiMaggio bursting into this interview. And we're like, what the hell? Because like Netflix didn't say he was going to be there or anything.
Yeah.
He like wasn't supposed to be part of the interview. But we're like, what is going on? And he goes, oh hey, I was just walking by and I saw the sign, because there's a sign outside that's like Disenchantment or Netflix or whatever. He's like, I was walking by and saw the sign, and he just comes in and just starts doing voices. This guy's the voice of Bender in Futurama.
Yeah.
He's Jake the dog in Adventure Time. He's the king. He's King Zog in Disenchantment. And he comes in, and Matt Groening takes out a pad of paper with all these sketches on it, and he flips to a sketch he had just done of King Zog, pulls it up next to John DiMaggio, and John DiMaggio starts doing the voice. Nice. It was very cool. It was a cool moment.
I mean, John DiMaggio doing voices of all of his different characters is kind of just the same voice, though. Like, Jake is the same voice as Bender. They're not that much different.
Right. Well, but
I don't know about the King, though.
Zog is a lot more. Should I try to do the voice that he was doing?
Yeah.
He was kind of like, no, I'm not doing it. That's bad. It's like it's more gruff, like, oh, like, what are you guys doing here? Like,
okay, all right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess
it's terrible.
I get where you're going with it.
It sounded different. It sounded different.
Well, Mike, I am super jealous and hate you just a little bit because I want to go so bad.
I hate you too, Dave.
Yeah, feelings mutual. But when does the show actually come out? Do you know?
Yeah, so Disenchantment hits Netflix August 17. Yeah. All of the episodes are dropping at the same time. And I'll actually leave you with one more tease, which Matt mentioned just now, which is that Princess Bean is actually the first human character he's ever drawn that has 5 fingers.
Is that? Yeah, I guess because the Simpsons. I forget that the Futurama ones don't have 5 fingers, just because I don't think about it.
Right. I mean, I don't think about it. Some people think about it, I think. And he said it's surprisingly difficult to draw characters with 5 fingers. And Josh Weinstein mentioned that there's something about the number of digits that their fingers have that's like a secret or an Easter egg or something. I have no idea.
It's just more you have to animate. You don't want to have to animate more fingers. It takes more time.
I'm just going to watch it when it comes out and we'll find out.